Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lai. I'm going to start our first sessions by talking about how to build a failover cluster and live migration for Hyper-V. In these sessions, I will going to cover more about what is live migrations and also cluster shared volume is all about in R2. And at the end of this session, I will also show you a demo from beginning until the end on how to set up a live migrations using failover cluster. Without wasting any more time, let's look into what is live migrations in R2. Live migrations provide a capabilities which allow your virtual machines to migrate from one host to another host without causing any downtimes or loss of connectivities. The user who is accessing to the virtual machines, they will not realize that they have been migrated from one node to another node. In today's market, VMware also have the same features as live migrations, but they don't call it as live migrations, they call it as vMotions. So what's the difference between live migration in R2 compared to quick migrations in R1? Basically, both of them is also move a VM from one node to another node. But the difference is in quick migration is when you migrate a virtual machines from one node to another node, you need to save the state of the VMs. So when you save the state of the VMs before you migrate to another node, there's a downtime. So the user will realize and they will have loss of connectivities while the process of migrations of the virtual machines from one node to another node. As I already mentioned previously, live migrations will allow you to migrate your virtual machines from one node to another node without causing any downtimes, and the virtual machines which is running is still online, and you do not need to save the state of the virtual machines when the live migrations happen. Sound interesting, right? So now let's look into how live migration work in real environments. In order to deploy live migrations, you need to have at least minimum 2 nodes of cluster which running Windows Server 2008 R2, and both of these nodes you need to connect to a shared storage. The shared storage can be either fiber channel or iSCSI storage. Now I have one client with accessing to the virtual machines, and currently the owner of the virtual machines is reside on the first node, which you can see on the screen, which on your left. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what will happen when I execute the live migrations commands. Once the live migration command has been executed, on the second node of the cluster, it will start to create the VM configuration file. After the VM configuration file has been created, it will start to copy the memory content from the first node to the second node. Once the live migration command has been executed, on the second node of the cluster, it will start to create the VM configuration file. After the VM configuration file has been created, it will start to copy the memory content from the first node to the second node. At this moment, the client is still accessing the virtual machines, whereby the owner is still reside on the first nodes. While the user is still accessing the virtual machines, sometimes the user has modified some of the data. So all these changes will be marked in the memory, and we call it as the dirty memory pages. Once the initial memory copy has been completed, the Hyper-V host will start to look into the dirty memory pages. At this moment, the dirty memory pages will start be copied from the first node to the second nodes, and the data of the changes is much more smaller. Once the dirty memory pages has been finished copying from the first node to the second nodes, the VM is paused and the state of the VMs is moved from the first node to the second nodes. On the final stage, an ARP has been issued to have their routing table been updated. The client has already been redirected to the second nodes without them realize that the virtual machines has been migrated from the first node to the second nodes. Since the session state is being maintained, there is no reconnection is necessary and there's no downtimes during the live migrations. Hope that you already understand how the live migration works, which I already explained in my previous slide. Now we are going to look into how you're going to initiate live migrations. In order for you to initiate live migrations, there are several ways of doing it. First and foremost, you can use a failover cluster snap-in, and this snap-in is available once you install failover cluster on each of the nodes. So basically you can use any of the nodes to initiate live migrations by using these tools. Another way of initiate live migrations is you can execute through WMI, or you can run a PowerShell scripts to initiate live migrations. Lastly, you can also use the System Center Virtual Machine Manager 2008 R2 to initiate live migrations. As what you all know, the VM 2008 R2 allow you to manage the physical and virtual machines running on Hyper-V. You may ask a simple question: how about if I want to initiate live migrations using R1, VM R1? So basically the answer is no, you can't, because in VM 2008 R1 does not support any live migration features. So for those user who already have a VM 2008 R1, if you want to implement live migrations, I advise you to upgrade to VM 2008 R2. By using VM 2008 R2, you can initiate a live migrations on the VMs. Besides that, you can also automatically set the live migration to happen when you place the nodes into a maintenance mode when you do some maintenance. So once you initiate a maintenance mode into a nodes, what will happen is it will move the virtual machines to another nodes. Besides that, if you have integrations VM with Operation Manager, you can also use pro tips for implementing live migration.